Hey guys, this is Matt. Welcome to a really special episode of Costa Rica Crypto, where I have the opportunity and the pleasure to speak to a project that I've been following for a long time. I know a lot of other people have. And today I have Kedar from Everipedia. And I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat with me today, Kedar. It's really appreciated. I think a lot of people are watching what you're doing. I know I am. And it's a pleasure to have you here. So I guess to kind of kick it off, I was hoping we can kind of take this back a little bit, and then maybe you can kind of, I'm sure, young Kedar wasn't thinking like I'm about to start a revolution that's going to kind of overtake, the Wikipedia movement, which I think you're in the midst of doing. Where did you grow up? How did your life path kind of lead you along this line to Everipedia?
I grew up in Silicon Valley. So my dad was involved in the first .com boom. So I saw the whole thing happen. I saw the .com boom go up. By the time I was 10, people had crashed and everyone was broke. So it was interesting. So that's what I grew up in. So I guess that's what the draw was to tech. I've always been involved in tech and things like that. I moved to LA like 7 or 8 years ago. I've lived in a couple of other places since then, but I've always been around like California. So tech's always been the thing around here. And it just, it was something interesting. Software was the place to be. So that's just where I ended up.
Yeah, cool. As I said, it's really interesting kind of what's developing. And I tend to talk to a lot of people who are into like some of the kind of social revolutions that are going on through EOS. And I think that social media has been just feeding us crap headlines with inaccuracy for a while. And the thing that really drew me to you guys was an author. I read a book, believe it or not, an author by the name of Noam Chomsky when I was quite young, who wrote a book called Manufacturing Consent. And it really opened my eyes to the way that a lot of the media is very guided and has ulterior purposes and is kind of moved by certain people who want to impose those purposes. I want to start by asking you, what problems does Everipedia solve? Why not use Wikipedia?
Wikipedia is a great site. Like, we've got nothing against Wikipedia. It's probably one of the best sites on the internet right now. What we're trying to solve is we're trying to create a self-sustaining organization that can do what Wikipedia does, but can't be censored, can be accessed from anywhere. And we think we'll have access to a wider array of content than Wikipedia. So Wikipedia has like importance criteria. So you have to be important enough. Everyone's seen this at some point. They'll try and create a Wikipedia page for themselves and it'll get deleted. So it's kind of a status symbol in some ways, having a Wikipedia page, but we don't see why that has to be. Like, we don't see why everyone can't just have a page. Like, there should be a single central place you can go to find information on a person. Not just a person, but any event, activity, place, anything like that. There's nothing wrong with having a wiki page for everything, in our opinion. So that's our main thing that we were trying to solve initially. And then when blockchain came along, we're like, hey, this is a great chance to merge what we had the idea of having a broader scope Wikipedia along with a token system where everything is self-sustaining and we don't even need to be involved. This can go on forever is our hope. If we set it up and the incentives are aligned properly, people will be able to continually use the site and get incentivized to create content along the way.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, man. I guess my next question for you, kind of moving from that, is how does Everipedia reflect some of your personal values?
For me, I'm a little bit of a libertarian bent. I think, like all crypto people, anti-censorship, not a fan of banks. I'd rather hold all my money, like 90% of my money is in crypto on a USB stick, and I don't care if it goes down 40%. I'd rather have it in my hand than have it in the bank. So things like that, it's just like, it gels really nicely with the whole, semi-anarchist bent, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's accurate. I think that's really cool too. And I'm right along with you there. I guess the next question that I have for you is, what are kind of the end game intentions with Everipedia, right? What's kind of like an idealization of perfect success for you guys?
Perfect success would be people creating content, not just because of some token reward or something like that, but because they want to. And the system operating without us being involved at all. So 5 years from now, if none of us have to deploy any code, none of us have to moderate, none of us have to do anything, and we can just disappear. Like, if all 4 of us like all 10 of us or whatever, we're on a plane together and the plane crashed, the system should just keep going. Everipedia should not even be affected by that. So that's the ideal goal out of all these things.
So kind of like building a legacy for the future that's going to kind of surpass all of you guys and the work that you put in here.
In some ways, yeah, but and also like mainly just not even about our legacy as much as just creating a network of information that can't be stopped. Not about us necessarily as much as it doesn't matter who's involved. If somebody else comes along 5 years from now and they're the ones working on it, if they suddenly disappear, the network should just keep going. It shouldn't be stoppable by governments, by anybody.
It's awesome. So out of all, I mean, I watch a lot of projects. I think that kind of Everipedia is one of the main ones that's kind of primed for mass adoption. I think that it's already starting down that road. How is the user interface kind of created in order to be able to accommodate that?
Right now, it's not ready to accommodate like mass influx of people. So user interface has been the one major thing that we still we're really looking. It's not something we're focusing on right now. It's something we need to focus on in the next like month to 2 months. Right now, our goal is we have to get the voting rewards out. That's like our plan for the next week. So we're all thinking really short term right now. And then once that voting rewards is up and we're sure that everything in the smart contract isn't buggy, then we need to get to the UI. But right now, it's not set up for like hundreds of people to come and edit constantly, which is already a skill we're almost starting to reach. There's like 15, 20 people editing on the site regularly. So it's just, it's in the to-do list.
Yeah, I think it's going to come. I think it's going to hit you guys pretty quick. And I think you're going to be, you're probably already shocked at the rate at which this thing is exploding. But I think that it's coming, man. It's coming. So next question is kind of like this. It's the normal question that I like to ask everybody because as you know, like I only do EOS stuff. It's, that's what I love. I love EOS. I love the community. Why did you guys choose EOS to do the project on?
We knew coming in that we would need, we mapped out our database. We thought, okay, we're going to need, what was the exact number? 500 megabytes to a gigabyte of space initially right off the bat. And we're like, okay, how can we get that cheaply? On Ethereum, we were looking into gas fees and everything. We need people to be able to contribute. We're looking at the scalability of how many transactions per second do we need for this to be viable? Can people make small votes? Is there some sort of, is there an advantage to whales over smaller people in terms of fees paid? Which in Ethereum or something, if you're a whale, you pay the same fee. So as a percentage, it's much easier to get away with fees as a whale. So looking at all that, it just seemed like EOS was a natural fit. Plus we knew Brendan, we ran into him in August. That was Sam and Travis, I think, ran into him in August of last year. So we knew the EOS guys. They seemed like, they knew what they were doing. They seemed highly competent. And we're like, this is something that we should get behind.
Yeah, I agree. And also, of course, the transaction speed must play a pretty big factor in that too.
That was the number one thing, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What does your roadmap look like right now, Kedar? What's kind of like, we've kind of spoken about what's immediately in front of us and what you guys are focusing on, but what does the future look like for Everipedia? What do you guys have coming up?
The huge goal on our roadmap is to get to a point where we pass the contract keys. So right now we update the contracts manually. We have the keys. Any changes have to go through us. Yeah. The big target on our roadmap is to have the keys past IQ multisig, where the token holders determine all code updates to the system. Nice, very cool.
How is the VC funding? Because of course, I believe you were like the first people to get VC funding. How is that funding and that mostly, I guess, that endorsement ultimately helped the project?
Yeah, I think it was the endorsement that really did it. The money itself, you don't need that much money to develop a product. It's going to be really useful for marketing. It's going to be really useful for growing in the future. But immediately, it's not like we have a huge use for that cash. The main thing was the endorsement that came with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's a pretty big thing when somebody stands up and says that we stand behind this product. And I get it. I understand why they do. It's pretty cool what you guys are in the midst of accomplishing. And I have some really, really high hopes, as I'm sure you guys do too. If you could kind of change one thing, just moving back to some of the more philosophical stuff, if you could change one thing about the way that we consume information on a day-to-day basis right now, what would that one thing be?
I like the bent that the internet's going in of like moving away from a broadcast sort of source to everyone participating. So I'd say if anything, just move more and more in that direction. I don't like when TV was the worst medium ever for communication, in my opinion. Not the worst. I mean, it was a huge improvement over what we had before. But it was awful in terms of creating a educated society. educated in the sense that people that think critically for themselves, I think, because nobody had a chance to actually reply to that. It was just you listened and that was it. I like, any sort of thing where people, there's hundreds of inputs, even if some of them are bad. Obviously, when you have thousands of people speaking, you're going to have some bad actors, good actors, more better thought out views, poorly thought out views and all that. Anything where we go to more and more people expressing their opinions and less central people telling you what to do, like that's what I'd go in that direction.
Yeah, I agree totally, and that's the cool thing that EOS is managing to accomplish. It's accomplishing a lot more than, as I've kind of spoken about, more than the version 1, version 2 blockchains. Just transmitting money around. We're making some really heavy social impact, and to lead into that, I think that we consume a lot of garbage on social media these days. At least that's my opinion. A lot of clickbait, and the things that people are looking into are, just a lot of kind of false information. Do you think what's your personal opinion? Do you think it's kind of become a detriment, or we just consume a ton of this information and just clickbait kind of reigns supreme over scholarly articles? What's kind of your opinion on that?
I don't think that's unique to our modern society or anything. Like if you went back to the town square thousands of years ago, I bet gossip was way more prevalent than scholarly content or anything spreading through the masses. If you want scholarly content, you got to put in the effort yourself, find a niche of the internet or the niche of your world that has that sort of stuff and consume it yourself. I don't really mind the way the internet's set up. I really like it personally.
Yeah, and as do I. I think that what I like about Everipedia is that everybody's going to have the chance to be able to have their say. They're not just being fed Bill Clinton eats ostrich and everybody's just buying into it, right? Everybody actually has, they get their chance to talk about it. It's put up and people can make edits. And I personally am a huge fan of kind of the system that you're rolling out. I guess the next question would be, I talked to a lot of people who are doing some projects with some social impact, that are giving people an opportunity, and some of them maybe, I won't say less fortunate, because of what I've learned in my travels is that people who don't have as much money are not necessarily any less happy. But I will say, do you think that ultimately Everipedia is going to provide an opportunity for people in other countries to maybe kind of monetize their content, as opposed to some of the systems that are in place right now, where a lot of it is kind of controlled by the few? And as you spoke about, kind of whales, how will Everipedia allow people in some of those countries who are looking to make a contribution and possibly monetize some content a fair shake over top of a lot of the other larger social media platforms?
I think the way the incentives are set up, it makes most sense for someone from a country with, specifically a country with a low, in purchasing power parity. Whoever has the lowest purchasing power parity, those are the people with the most incentive to create Everipedia articles. It happens to be that those countries are also the countries that are, less developed, maybe poorer countries compared to the West or something like that. It doesn't make much sense to sit here and, create an article for, if you're looking for income out of this. If you're just looking to create articles, which I hope there are going to be a lot of people doing, the money doesn't matter to you. You're just creating the article. If you're looking to do it as some sort of side income as well, it makes most sense. If you're not going to make more than, it's going to be a highly competitive environment in terms of creating content and things like that. $2 to $3 an hour, maybe you're looking at. That's not reasonable for someone in the West to do, but it's perfectly reasonable for someone with an internet connection in India, for instance, to do. So I think the incentives are going to be aligned in a way that, maybe not even intentionally, but that's where the content's going to end up being created.
I think that's really cool. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people who are just passionate about what they do are going to use the site as a medium for that as well. But the fact that you're going to provide some opportunity for people in developing countries to be able to get heard. I mean, in Venezuela, $3 an hour is a heck of a lot of money, right? So I love that.
And anybody can access it. There's no capital controls or currency. It's not like, oh, I can't convert my bolivars to dollars, so I can't participate in this economy. It's anyone that can sell crypto, which we're hoping crypto is going to bleed into the whole world. Anybody that can get access to crypto can do this.
Yeah, which I love, and which is typically a lot of people around the world. All you need is either a phone or an internet connection for that. I want to move into something about kind of obviously you're heavily involved in the site. You're doing a lot of the programming, but what are kind of your 2 favorite articles that are kicking around the site right now?
2 favorite articles. I'll admit I don't actually spend too much time looking at the recent articles coming in because I'm so busy writing code. Our favorite article has always been Tekashi69, man. That guy was he made the site run for a little bit, like just the hits on that one. And then the Cardi B article, because I think it was really representative of Wikipedia. Didn't have a Cardi B article for like a year after she was a top 10 artist because it said she didn't pass the notability requirements. And everybody's like, "Are you crazy? Like she's one of the most notable people in the world right now." But we had an article, and we were the main source of like, the main wiki for her for a while. So I think those are 2.
How does peer review work to enhance the functionality and the accuracy of information on your site?
That's something that's still kind of in progress. The idea is that if we create the incentives properly so that if you're a bad actor in the system, you get punished, and if you're a good actor in the system, you get rewarded. Naturally, the peer review will move in a direction of higher quality. But I think a lot of it's going to be set early on by just setting a culture of that early on.
That's a good answer. I absolutely agree. Why airdrop? I know why, but why did you guys choose to airdrop IQ to everybody?
block.one approached us with the idea, and we were like, this is a great idea. The point is to get the tokens to as many people as possible. And block.one's like, hey, we have a distribution list of 160,000 people. Why not just send it to that? And we're like, okay, cool, let's do that.
Yeah, you're putting the tokens in the hands of people who are going to use them.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I guess I want to know a little bit more about Kedar. What motivates you, man? Like I know you just told me, you just got off telling me that you're holed up at your buddy's house there in LA, and you guys are just working hard, grinding code. What makes you get up every day and just go to work and give it your best?
I really enjoy working on crypto. I like writing the code. It's really fascinating. I think crypto and blockchain is like the next. It's the next. What is it? There's like next technological revolution. Yeah. I think it's going to really reshape the way, just like the internet reshapes society. I think blockchain is going to do a similar thing in ways that we're not going to be able to predict, and it's just fun to be a part of the revolution as it's happening.
I totally agree. I've had a lot of conversations about that, and like I always have these arguments with some of my friends who are kind of, they might be. I've got a friend who works on the New York Stock Exchange as a trader, and he's like, "It's never going to happen." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, get on the train, man, or get out of the way." That's what I always say. So I'm of the same opinion. If you had like one message that you could just you could transmit digitally to absolutely everybody in the world, just like kind of like in a couple of lines, what would it be?
They can't control you if you control your own money. That's a very crypto related one.
I love it, and also accurate. I love that. Okay, if you had now just another one of these deep questions, if you could change one thing about the way that society functions today, what might that be?
Less large federal government, more local government. I think local and smaller, like the closer you are to the people, the better government functions.
Yeah, that's accurate as well. So people have kind of wanted me to ask, when will Everipedia be on chain, and how much of the actual information is stored on chain?
What's stored on chain is just an IPFS hash of the documents. And then you would take that hash, you'd feed it into the IPFS daemon, and if you wanted to run it truly decentralized way, you would pull the article from the IPFS daemon. So there's only the way it's stored on chain is there's the hash of the current article and there's the hash of the parent article, and it forms kind of a tree. So that's the only part that's actually stored on chain. It's actually on chain right now. There's a smart contract there. What we haven't done is we haven't migrated the 6 or 7 million articles we have in our main database into the smart contract, and we're waiting to do that until we have the whole system checked in. So I'd say 3 months, and we'll be fully, totally on chain, and give it a week, maybe even tonight. Like that's our goal for tonight, is to get the voting rewards out. Nice.
That's awesome. All right. I did want to ask you a question just because it's kind of been asked in the community, and just give you an answer to kind of have an opportunity to have your say. And you know what's coming. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody's asking you why fees, right? So I want to give you just a little bit of an opportunity to kind of talk on that.
Okay. Why fee? There's two ways of funding the network. There's the inflation method, and there's the fee method. The inflation method hits everyone equally. So no matter who you are in the network, you get hit by the same fee. It's just the number gets inflated and everyone gets devalued a certain amount. For the fee, we were able to do something a little bit cuter where the only people that get charged fees are the people involved in speculation. If you're involved in actually running the network, so if you're staking tokens, if you're creating content, if you're voting, all of these are no fee actions. But if all you're doing is transferring the money around, which is usually if you're transferring the money around, you're trying to trade it, then you get taxed. So it's more of a speculation tax than it is a transfer fee in our opinion. So we're taxing the speculators and we're taking that money, we're going to burn that money to offset the inflation that comes from the edit rewards. So essentially the speculators are paying for the people actually contributing to the network. So that's the reasoning behind the fee.
It's an interesting model. I think that's pretty cool. It's a good explanation. I know a lot of people really support you in the community. I watched a talk there yesterday that went down on Reddit, and I know that a lot of people kind of get it and they understand, but I think that's a pretty solid explanation as well. So the last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, so you get back to your programming, is there anything you wanted to talk about? Where can people come find you if they want to ask questions, if they want to get involved with Everipedia? And of course, I'm going to list the website and the Telegram and all your appropriate links below. But where can people track you down if they want to get involved? And is there anything that you kind of want to mention here as we're signing off that's coming up, or anything, any last thoughts?
We're always on our Telegram. That's the best way to access us. To reach us, anything. We've got like 5 or 6 people constantly trolling it, like answering questions. All of our announcements go through there. Usually you can get a response within an hour if you hit us up there. And sometimes we're just like chilling there and we'll reply to you immediately. So what if you have any sort of like, so when we implemented the fees and we got a bunch of feedback, so we actually changed a couple things in the fees. Initially, the fee comes from the receiver, was how it was. And that was upsetting a lot of people. And we got a bunch of messages from exchanges, how that just kind of screws with their system. So we made a change. We implemented the fees. We got feedback within 2 hours from those guys. We changed the code and we made a couple deployments within like 3 hours of them, without 3 hours of the first update itself. So we're just sitting there on Telegram. If you give us feedback, we'll take it, we'll take it in and we'll make the changes immediately and deploy it. So, and in terms of like future things going on, the edit rewards are coming out very soon. So look out for that.
All right, I'm definitely going to link to everything inside of here as well. Kedar, man, you're super laid back, super down to earth. I know how busy you are, and I was really honored that you took the time to come and speak with me today. So I really want to
thanks for having me on. This was great.
It's my pleasure, man. It really, really is. Thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future. And I wish you well. I wish Everipedia well. I think you guys are doing some awesome things, and move over Wikipedia. I'm looking forward. The future looks good, man.
Thanks, man.
Hey, buddy. I'll see you soon. Thanks.